The October air in Portland carried that distinctive crisp quality that always made me feel alive. At 72 years old, I had learned to appreciate these small pleasures. The maple trees lining Elm Street were ablaze with amber and crimson, their leaves catching the afternoon light as I stood on the wraparound porch of my new house, a Victorian beauty I had purchased just 3 months earlier with my late husband's life insurance money. For 47 years, Gerald and I had dreamed of owning a grand old house like this one. We had spent decades in our modest ranch-style home, raising our daughter Nadine and saving every penny we could. Gerald passed away 2 years ago, and though the grief still visited me in quiet moments, I had decided to honor our dream. This house, with its turret rooms and original hardwood floors, represented everything we had worked toward. Today was my birthday, and I had invited everyone. The house buzzed with activity as family members arrived throughout the afternoon. Nadine, my 50-year-old daughter, had driven up from Eugene with her husband Marcus and their 3 children. My younger sister Dorothy came with her husband and their adult son. Even some old friends from my book club made the journey. The dining room table groaned under the weight of potluck dishes. Everyone had brought something special. The scent of Dorothy's famous pot roast mingled with the sweet aroma of apple pie. I moved through the rooms, greeting guests, accepting hugs and birthday wishes, feeling genuinely blessed. My granddaughter, Ilawan, had just turned 16. She was a quiet, thoughtful girl with her father's dark curls and her grandmother's gray-green eyes. She had always been observant, the kind of child who noticed things others missed. Throughout the afternoon, I noticed her watching the adults with an unusual intensity, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. Around 4 in the afternoon, I announced I would fetch the birthday cake from the kitchen. I had ordered it from a local bakery, a beautiful 3-layer vanilla cake with buttercream frosting and fresh flowers. As I pushed through the swinging kitchen door, I heard soft footsteps behind me. Ilawan appeared at my elbow, her face pale and drawn. She glanced back toward the dining room, then turned to me with eyes that held something I can only describe as fear. "Grandma," she whispered urgently, her hand gripping my arm. "You must run from my mom. Now." I stared at her, certain I had misheard. "What did you say, sweetheart?" "Please, Grandma, you need to get away from Mom. Right now." Her voice trembled but remained insistent. "Ilawan, what are you talking about? Why would I run from your mother?" My heart began to pound, though I tried to keep my voice calm. Instead of answering, she thrust her phone into my hands. "Look at this. I set up cameras in the house 2 weeks ago when I came to help you unpack. I was worried about Mom's behavior, and I wanted to know what she was doing when no one was watching." My hands shook as I took the phone. The screen showed a security camera application with multiple recordings. Ilawan tapped one dated just 5 days earlier, and suddenly I was looking at footage of my own living room. On the small screen, Nadine stood near my antique writing desk, the one Gerald had restored for our 30th anniversary. She was on the phone, and even through the tinny speaker, I could hear her voice clearly. "I'm telling you, Richard, the old woman won't last much longer anyway. She's 72. We just need to be patient. Once she's gone, this house and everything in it comes to me. I'm the only child, remember?" Nadine laughed, a cold sound I didn't recognize. "Why should I wait? I've already talked to a lawyer about having her declared incompetent. With her age and that little memory slip she had last year, it shouldn't be hard." I felt the room spin around me. My daughter's voice continued from the phone. "She spent everything Dad left her on this ridiculous house. Can you believe it? That money was supposed to be mine. But don't worry, sweetheart. Once I get power of attorney, we can put her in a care facility and sell this place. Then we'll finally have the money for that beach house in California you've been wanting." The video showed Nadine walking through my home like she already owned it, evaluating furniture, taking photographs of artwork. My daughter, my only child, the girl I had raised, loved, sacrificed for. Ilawan's voice brought me back to the present. "There's more, Grandma. Lots more. She's been coming here when you're out, going through your papers, talking to lawyers." I found emails on her laptop. "She's planning to have you institutionalized, claiming you can't take care of yourself." Chapter 2. The Weight of Truth. I stood in that kitchen, birthday candles waiting to be lit, guests laughing in the next room, and felt my entire world restructure itself. The phone trembled in my hands as Ilawan showed me video after video. There was Nadine rifling through my financial documents. There she was measuring rooms with a real estate agent. In another clip, she was on the phone describing to someone named Richard how she planned to convince my doctor that I needed supervised care. "Who is Richard?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Elowen's eyes filled with tears. "Mom's boyfriend. She's been seeing him for 8 months. Dad doesn't know. Marcus." Dear, hard-working Marcus, who managed a hardware store and thought his wife was taking evening pottery classes. The betrayals were multiplying, each revelation another crack in the foundation of what I thought I knew about my family. "Why are you showing me this now?" I asked, setting the phone down on the kitchen counter before I dropped it. "Because I heard her talking to Richard this morning before we left Eugene. She said today was the day. She's going to create some kind of scene, make you look confused or unstable in front of everyone, then use it as evidence that you can't live alone. Grandma, she brought a notary with her. He's that guy who came late, the one she introduced as an old college friend. She's planning to get you to sign papers today, at your own birthday party." The audacity of it stole my breath. I leaned against the kitchen counter, my legs suddenly weak. 72 years of life, of working hard, of being a good mother, and this was how it ended. With my own daughter plotting to rob me of my autonomy, my home, my dignity. But even as shock coursed through me, something else emerged. Anger. Not the hot, explosive kind, but the cold, clarifying type that sharpens the mind rather than clouds it. I had not survived 7 decades, including the Depression-era childhood my parents lived through and told me about, the struggles of young motherhood, the loss of my husband, just to be manipulated and discarded by my own child. I looked at Elowen, this brave young woman who had risked her relationship with her mother to protect me. "How long have you known?" "About 3 weeks. I suspected something was wrong a few months ago. Mom started asking weird questions about you, about whether you seemed forgetful or confused. She'd say things like, 'It's so sad when old people can't manage on their own anymore,' right in front of you, like she was planting seeds. Then I noticed her coming here when you were at your book club. I installed the cameras using money from my summer job. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I needed proof. I knew you wouldn't believe me otherwise." She was right. If she had come to me with accusations but no evidence, I would have dismissed it as teenage dramatics. A misunderstanding. Nadine had always been good at presenting a caring facade. I would have defended her, blamed myself for having raised a child who felt disconnected enough to worry her own daughter. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "Right now, don't let her see that you know. Don't sign anything, no matter what anyone says. Tell everyone you need to think about any documents before signing. And Grandma, you need to talk to a lawyer first thing Monday morning. Someone she doesn't know about." I nodded slowly, my mind already working through the implications. "Does anyone else in your family know what you discovered?" Elowen shook her head. "Not yet. I wanted to tell Dad, but I'm afraid of what it might do to him. And my brothers are too young to understand. I feel so alone in this." I pulled her into a hug, this girl who had shown more loyalty and courage than her mother ever had. "You're not alone anymore, sweetheart. We're going to handle this together. But right now, we need to go back out there and act like everything is normal. Can you do that?" She nodded against my shoulder. "What about the cake? We're going to serve that cake, sing the birthday song, and I'm going to smile for photographs. Your mother wants to make me look incompetent. Let's show her how very competent I can be." Chapter 3. The Performance. Walking back into that dining room felt like stepping onto a stage. Every eye turned toward me as I carried the beautiful cake, candles already lit and flickering. The warm glow illuminated faces I had known for years, people I loved and trusted. Somewhere among them was a man pretending to be an old friend, ready to notarize documents that would steal my freedom. "There she is," Dorothy called out. "We were starting to think you got lost in that big kitchen of yours." Everyone laughed. I managed to smile, setting the cake on the table with steady hands. Years of teaching elementary school had taught me how to maintain composure even when my insides churned. I had once comforted a classroom full of children during a fire drill while battling the worst migraine of my life. I could certainly survive my own birthday party. Nadine stood at the head of the table, her smile wide and warm. She was a handsome woman, tall and well-dressed, with the kind of professional polish that came from her work as a pharmaceutical sales representative. She had always been image-conscious, always aware of how things looked to others. Today she wore a cashmere sweater in deep burgundy, pearl earrings that had been my mother's, and an expression of devoted concern. "Mom, you were gone so long. We were worried about you." She moved to my side, touching my elbow in what anyone else would interpret as a caring gesture. Now it felt like chains. "I was just having a moment with Elowen," I said smoothly. "She was telling me about her plans for college. It's wonderful to have such ambitious grandchildren." I watched Nadine's face carefully. Did her smile tighten slightly at the mention of Elowen? Or was I imagining things now that I knew the truth? The singing started. Voices blended in the familiar birthday song while I stood before my cake, looking at the faces around me. Which of these people knew about Nadine's plans? Was Marcus truly ignorant, or was he complicit? Were my friends aware, pitying me in silence? "Make a wish, Mom," Nadine urged. I closed my eyes. Once, I would have wished for health, happiness, more years with the people I loved. Now I wished for strength, for wisdom, and for justice. I blew out the candles in one breath, and everyone applauded. As I cut the cake, I noticed the man Nadine had introduced as Derek, supposedly an old college friend. He stood near the doorway, slightly apart from the group, checking his watch periodically. He was younger than most of the guests, perhaps in his early 40s, with the careful grooming and neutral demeanor of someone in a professional service field. A notary, I now knew, waiting for his moment. The afternoon progressed in a surreal blur. I accepted gifts, made small talk, laughed at appropriate moments. Inside, my mind raced through possibilities and plans. I caught Elowen watching me several times, her eyes questioning. I gave her small nods of reassurance. We were both acting now, pretending everything was normal while chaos swirled beneath the surface. Around 5:30, as the party began to wind down, Nadine made her move. "Mom, I was thinking, since everyone's here, maybe we should take care of some practical matters. You know, boring adult stuff, but important." Several guests began gathering their belongings, sensing the shift in tone. Dorothy gave me a quick hug. "I should get going. Harold has an early morning tomorrow. Happy birthday, Stella." "Estelle," I corrected gently, though I'd given up on my sister remembering years ago. "Thank you for coming, Dorothy." As people filtered out, Nadine became more insistent. Mom, Derek here is actually a notary public. I thought since you've been talking about organizing your affairs, maybe we could get some documents properly witnessed today. You know, power of attorney, healthcare directives, that sort of thing. Just to make sure everything is in order. At your age, it's important to be prepared." There it was, the trap laid out in the open, disguised as loving concern. At my age, as if being 72 automatically made me incompetent. Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Nadine, this is your mother's birthday party. Can't this wait?" "It's fine, Marcus. I'm just trying to help. Mom knows I only want what's best for her." Nadine turned to me with that smile that had fooled me for so many years. "You trust me, don't you, Mom?" The question hung in the air. Everyone remaining in the room watched us. Elowen stood frozen near the fireplace, her hands clenched at her sides. This was the moment. How I answered would determine everything that came next. "Of course I trust you, dear," I said calmly. "But I'm afraid I'm quite tired from all this excitement. Perhaps we could schedule a proper meeting next week. I'd like to review any documents with my own attorney present before signing anything. It's just good practice. You understand." Chapter 4. The confrontation begins. Nadine's smile faltered. It was only for a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. The mask slipped just enough to reveal the calculation underneath. "Your attorney? Mom? I don't think you have an attorney. You've never mentioned one. Then it's high time I retained one, don't you think?" I kept my voice pleasant, reasonable. At my age, as you say, these matters require proper professional guidance. Derek, I'm sure you understand. No offense intended, but I prefer to have my own legal counsel review any important documents before signing. Derek, the notary, shifted awkwardly. "Of course, Mrs. Harrington, that's always advisable. I can come back another time." "That won't be necessary," Nadine interjected, her voice sharper now. Mom, I've already consulted with an attorney on your behalf. These documents are for your protection. Don't you want to make sure someone can make decisions for you if something happens? What if you have another one of those memory episodes?" There it was again. The memory episode she referenced had happened 8 months ago. I had briefly forgotten where I parked my car at the grocery store. Spent 10 minutes searching the lot before finding it 2 rows over from where I thought I'd left it. Nadine had been with me that day. She had made such a fuss about it, insisted on calling my doctor, suggested perhaps I shouldn't drive anymore. At the time, I had brushed it off, slightly embarrassed but not concerned. Everyone forgets where they parked sometimes, regardless of age. Now I understood she had been building her case even then, creating a narrative of incompetence. "I appreciate your concern," I said carefully, "but I'm perfectly capable of managing my own affairs. As I said, I'll review any documents with my own attorney next week." Marcus stood, clearly uncomfortable with the tension in the room. "Kids, let's start packing up. We should hit the road before it gets too late." "Marcus, sit down," Nadine snapped. "This is important." Her husband froze, surprised by her tone. In that moment, I saw him clearly, perhaps for the first time. A kind man, hard-working and steady, but one who had learned over years of marriage to defer to his wife's stronger personality. He sat back down, looking miserable. Nadine turned back to me, and now the caring facade was completely gone. "Mom, let's be honest. You're not getting any younger. You spent all of Dad's insurance money on this ridiculous house. What happens when you can't maintain it? When you can't afford the property taxes or the upkeep? You're being selfish and short-sighted. And someone needs to look out for your best interests since you clearly won't." The room fell silent. Even her own sons, my other grandchildren, 16-year-old Ellison and 14-year-old Emmerich, looked shocked. They had been in the kitchen, likely staying out of adult business, but had wandered back in time to hear their mother's outburst. "Nadine, that's enough," Marcus said quietly. "No, it's not enough. She's my mother, and I have a responsibility here. This house, this whole situation, it's not sustainable. She needs to be realistic." I stood there, absorbing the venom in my daughter's voice, and felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me. This was who she really was. The loving, concerned daughter had been the performance. This angry, grasping woman demanding control of my life and assets was the truth. "Nadine," I said softly, "I think you should leave now." Her eyes widened. "What?" "I'm asking you to leave my home. You've made your feelings quite clear. Thank you for coming to my birthday party. But I'm tired now and would like some privacy. You can't be serious." "Mom, I'm trying to help you." "No," I said, my voice stronger now. "You're trying to help yourself, and I won't make it easy for you. Marcus, boys, you're welcome to stay if you'd like, but Nadine needs to go." Chapter 5, The Aftermath of Truth. The silence that followed my words was deafening. Nadine stood frozen, her face cycling through expressions of shock, anger, and something that might have been genuine hurt if I didn't know better. Marcus had gone pale, his eyes darting between his wife and me, clearly trying to understand what was happening. "Mom, you're not thinking clearly," Nadine tried again, her voice taking on a placating tone. "This is exactly what I was worried about. You're confused, overwhelmed. These kinds of emotional reactions aren't normal. Don't," I said firmly, "don't you dare try to gaslight me in my own home. I know exactly what you've been doing, Nadine. I know about your plans to have me declared incompetent. I know about the real estate agent you brought here behind my back. I know about Richard." The color drained from her face. Marcus stood up slowly. "Richard? Who's Richard?" Nadine spun toward her husband. "Nobody. She's confused. Making things up." "I'm not confused, Marcus. I'm sorry you have to learn about this now. But your wife has been having an affair for 8 months with a man named Richard. She's been planning to put me in a care facility and sell this house so she can buy a beach house in California with her boyfriend." "That's a lie." Nadine's voice rose to a shout. "Mom, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy my marriage?" Elowen stepped forward, her phone in her hand. "Because it's true, Mom. I have proof. Video recordings, emails, phone records, everything." Nadine's head snapped toward her daughter. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting Grandma from you." Elowen's voice shook, but she stood her ground. "I knew something was wrong. The way you talked about her. The questions you kept asking about whether she seemed forgetful or confused. You were building a case against her, and I couldn't let you do it. Give me that phone." Nadine lunged toward her daughter, but Marcus intercepted her, his face a mask of confusion and dawning horror. "Nadine, what is she talking about? What have you done?" "Nothing," I haven't done anything. This is insane. My own daughter, conspiring with my mother against me. She laughed, but it was a brittle, desperate sound. You're both crazy? Then you won't mind if we show Dad the videos, Elowen said quietly. She tapped her phone screen, and suddenly Nadine's voice filled the room, tinny but clear from the security camera footage. I'm telling you, Richard, the old woman won't last much longer anyway. She's 72. We just need to be patient. I watched Marcus's face crumble as he listened to his wife's words. His strong, capable hands trembled. When the video ended, he looked at Nadine like he was seeing a stranger. 8 months, he said hoarsely. You've been cheating on me for 8 months while I worked 60-hour weeks to help pay for the kids' college funds. Marcus, I can explain? And my mother-in-law, whom I love and respect. You were planning to have her locked away so you could steal her home. His voice grew stronger, anger replacing shock. How could you? Ellison and Emmerich stood together near the doorway, both looking shell-shocked. They were old enough to understand what was happening, young enough that it would scar them. My heart broke for them, these innocent boys caught in their mother's web of deceit. Everyone calm down, Derek the notary said nervously, edging toward the door. I think I should go. Mrs. Harrington, Nadine, I'm leaving now. Wait, I said. He froze. Did my daughter pay you to come here today? Did she explain to you what she was planning? He swallowed hard. She said you had requested assistance with estate planning documents, that you wanted to grant her power of attorney. I didn't know there was any. I'm just a notary. I witness signatures. That's all. Did she offer you extra money to come to a private residence on a Sunday? To be here under false pretenses? His silence was answer enough. Go, I said quietly. And if I hear that you've been involved in any other schemes like this one, I'll make sure the appropriate licensing boards know about it. He practically ran from the house. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the rooms. We stood there, my daughter, her husband, her children, and me in the wreckage of our family. I want you to leave, I said to Nadine. Right now. Fine. I'll leave. But this isn't over, Mother. You're making a huge mistake. You're old, you're alone, and you're going to end up in some state-run facility with no one who cares about you. Her voice was vicious now, all pretense abandoned. You think this house makes you special. It's just a burden, a money pit that's going to bleed you dry. But go ahead, be stubborn. See how that works out for you. Chapter 6. Picking up the pieces. Marcus's voice cut through the tension. Nadine, be quiet. Just be quiet. He turned to me, and I saw tears in his eyes. Estelle, I had no idea. I swear to you, I didn't know any of this. I believe you, Marcus. Mom, Ellison spoke up hesitantly. He was so much like his father, steady and honest. We didn't know either, about any of it. I know, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I looked at my grandsons. These good boys who were learning a terrible lesson about betrayal today. You'll always be welcome in this house. Both of you. Always. Emmerich started crying silently. Elowen went to her younger brother and put her arm around him. The sight of my grandchildren trying to comfort each other while their mother stood rigid with rage made something in my chest tighten painfully. I'm taking the boys and going to a hotel, Marcus said finally. Elowen, do you want to come with us? Elowen looked at me. Can I stay with Grandma tonight? Please? Of course you can, I said. I'd like that very much. Marcus nodded. Nadine, get your things. We're leaving. I'm not going anywhere. This is my mother's house, and I have every right to be here. No, I said firmly. You don't. This is my house, purchased with my money, and I'm telling you to leave. If you don't, I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. For a moment, I thought she might refuse. Her jaw clenched, her hands balled into fists, but then she saw something in my face, perhaps the same steel that had gotten me through nursing school while raising a young daughter, the same determination that had helped me survive Gerald's death and build a new life. She knew I meant what I said. Fine. Come on, Marcus. Boys, let's go. But Marcus shook his head. I'm not going with you, Nadine. The boys and I will find a hotel. You figure out where you're staying. Maybe your boyfriend Richard has a couch you can sleep on. The shock on Nadine's face would have been comical if the situation weren't so tragic. She had expected Marcus to follow her lead, as he always had. His defiance clearly stunned her. You're choosing her over me, your own wife. You stopped being the woman I married a long time ago. I just didn't want to see it. Marcus's voice was heavy with sadness. Boys, go get your overnight bags from the car. We're leaving. As my grandsons filed out, Ellison paused to hug me. Happy birthday, Grandma. I'm sorry it got ruined. It's not ruined, sweetheart. Having family who stands up for what's right, that's the best gift I could ask for. After they left, the house felt eerily quiet. Elowen and I stood in the dining room, surrounded by the detritus of the party. Half-eaten cake, crumpled napkins, abandoned coffee cups. The warm, festive atmosphere from hours earlier had evaporated, leaving behind only cold reality. Are you okay, Grandma? Elowen asked softly. I don't know, I admitted. Ask me tomorrow. Right now, I need to sit down. We moved to the living room, settling onto the overstuffed sofa that Gerald and I had picked out 30 years ago. It was worn but comfortable, familiar in a way that nothing else in this new house was yet. I pulled a knitted throw over my legs, suddenly feeling every one of my 72 years. I'm sorry I ruined your birthday, Elowen said miserably. You didn't ruin anything. You saved me from making a terrible mistake. If I had signed those papers, I trailed off, unable to finish the thought. But now your whole family is falling apart because of me. No, I took her hand firmly. Your mother's choices did this. Her lies, her greed, her betrayal. You had the courage to tell the truth, and that's never something to apologize for. I paused, looking at this brave young woman who had sacrificed so much to protect me. But I need to know something. Are you going to be all right? Your relationship with your mother is going to be strained, perhaps permanently. Elowen was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with unshed tears. I've been preparing myself for this for weeks. Ever since I found those first emails, I knew it would come to this eventually. I just kept hoping I was wrong, you know? That there would be some explanation that made sense, that proved Mom wasn't really the person I was discovering her to be. I understand. I've been hoping that too, probably for longer than you have. What do you mean? Chapter 7. Reflections and Revelations. I leaned back against the sofa cushions, my gaze drifting to the family photographs I had arranged on the mantel. There was my wedding picture, Gerald and me so young and hopeful. There was Nadine as a gap-toothed 7-year-old, holding her first-place ribbon from the science fair. There were graduation photos, baby pictures of the grandchildren, frozen moments from a life that suddenly felt like someone else's story. Your mother has always been complicated, I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. Even as a child, she was driven, ambitious. Those aren't bad qualities necessarily, but they came with a certain ruthlessness that worried me sometimes. What do you mean? When she was 10, there was a girl in her class named Beth Morrison. Beth and Nadine were competing for the lead role in the school play. Nadine wanted that role desperately. A week before auditions, Beth fell and broke her wrist during recess. Nadine got the part by default. I paused, remembering. Years later, when Nadine was in high school, she mentioned that fall in passing. Said something like, "Remember when I accidentally bumped Beth Morrison off the monkey bars?" She laughed about it, like it was no big deal. Elowen's eyes widened. She pushed her. I don't know for certain. At the time, everyone said it was an accident. But the way Nadine talked about it later, so casual, so matter-of-fact, it made me wonder. I told myself I was being paranoid, that children sometimes do thoughtless things without understanding the consequences. But there were other incidents over the years. Small things. A friend who stopped coming around after Nadine started a rumor about her. A boyfriend who broke up with someone else conveniently just before Nadine showed interest in him. She had a way of getting what she wanted, and she didn't seem to feel guilt about how she got it. Why didn't you do something? Say something? Because she was my daughter, and I loved her. I wanted to believe the best of her. And honestly, Elowen, I blame myself. I was a single mother for much of her childhood. Your grandfather worked long hours, and I was in nursing school, then working night shifts. I wondered if she had learned these behaviors because I wasn't present enough, because she felt she had to fight for attention and resources. That's not your fault, Grandma. Maybe not, but that's how mothers think, especially mothers from my generation. We were raised to believe that if our children struggled or failed, it was because we hadn't done enough. I sighed. After she married Marcus and had you kids, I thought she had changed. She seemed happy, settled. She was a good mother to you three, or so I thought. Was I wrong about that too? Elowen considered this carefully. She was good to us, mostly. She always made sure we had what we needed, was involved in our activities, came to our games and concerts. But there was always this feeling that her love came with conditions. We had to achieve, had to be the best, had to make her look good. Ellison feels it more than me or Emmerich. He's planning to study music education, but Mom keeps pushing him toward business school because it's more prestigious. And you? How has she treated you? She's been harder on me the past few years. I think because I'm the oldest, and a girl, she sees me as competition somehow, or maybe a reflection of herself. When I told her I wanted to study environmental science, she said it was a waste of time, that I should go into pharmaceutical sales like her. When I got accepted to Oregon State, she insisted I should hold out for Stanford or Berkeley, even though I don't want to go that far from home. Nothing I do is quite good enough. I squeezed her hand. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You deserve better. We both do. She looked at me with those wise, sad eyes. What are you going to do now? About Mom? It was the question I'd been avoiding asking myself. What did I do now? Nadine was still my daughter. Somewhere under all that greed and calculation was the little girl I had rocked to sleep, the teenager I had stayed up late with talking about her dreams, the young woman I had stood beside on her wedding day. That person either still existed, buried under years of choices that had hardened her into someone I didn't recognize, or she had never existed at all, and I had been loving an illusion. And I'm going to protect myself, I said finally. First thing Monday morning, I'm going to find an attorney, a good one, and I'm going to make sure your mother can never control my affairs. I'll update my will, establish clear directives about my health care and finances. I'll make it impossible for her to do what she planned. And then, I don't know. I suppose that depends on your mother. Whether she's capable of acknowledging what she's done, of being honest for once in her life. I felt tears welling up, but blinked them back. I won't let her take this house from me, Elowen. This was Gerald's and my dream. It's all I have left of what we built together, but I also won't completely close the door on her. She's my daughter. I have to believe there's still a chance for her to change, even if right now that seems impossible. Well, that's very generous of you. It's not generosity. It's just love, the kind that doesn't make sense, that persists even when it shouldn't. When you have children of your own someday, you'll understand. We sat in silence for a while, watching the last light fade from the October sky. The street lamps came on, casting pools of golden light on the leaf-strewn sidewalks. A family walked by, parents with 2 small children between them, all holding hands. Through the window, I could hear the children's laughter, high and bright and unburdened. Chapter 8. The Long Night. That night, I barely slept. Elowen took the guest room down the hall, and I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the evening's events in an endless loop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Nadine's face twisted with anger, heard her voice dismissing me as old and incompetent. I thought about all the times I had defended her to others, made excuses for her sharp tongue or her focus on material success. I had told myself she was just ambitious, just practical, just trying to provide security for her family. How long had I been lying to myself? Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. The house creaked around me, still unfamiliar in its nighttime sounds. I made chamomile tea and sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in my robe, watching moonlight paint silver squares on the floor. This house, this beautiful Victorian that Gerald and I had dreamed about for decades, felt different now, tainted by what had happened within its walls. I wondered if I had made a mistake buying it. Maybe Nadine had been right about one thing. At 72, was I being foolish to take on such a large property? The taxes alone were more than our old mortgage had been. The maintenance would be expensive. And for what? To prove I was still capable, to fulfill a dream that was only half mine now that Gerald was gone. But even as doubt crept in, another voice pushed back. This wasn't foolishness. This was living. When Gerald died, I had felt like my life was over too. We had been together since I was 23 years old. For 2 years after his death, I had drifted through days in our old house, surrounded by memories but feeling like a ghost myself. Buying this Victorian had been an act of defiance against that slow fade into irrelevance. It was me saying I still had life to live, dreams to pursue, purpose to find. Nadine had wanted to take that from me, to put me in some facility where I would be safe and managed and slowly disappearing. I knew how those places worked. I had been a nurse for 35 years, had seen countless elderly patients lose their spark once they were institutionalized. Even in the nicest facilities, they stopped fighting because there was nothing left to fight for, no autonomy, no purpose beyond waiting for the end. I wouldn't let that be my story. Not yet. Not while I could still walk, still think, still choose my own path. A soft sound made me turn. Elawan stood in the doorway, wearing an oversized t-shirt and flannel pajama pants, her dark hair tangled from sleep. Couldn't rest either, I asked. She shook her head and joined me at the table. I keep thinking about Dad and the boys, where they are, how they're doing. I should text Dad, but I don't know what to say. Tell him the truth. That you're safe, that you're sorry he had to learn about your mother's affair that way, and that you love him. She pulled out her phone and typed slowly, her young face drawn with worry. After a moment, her phone buzzed. He says they're at a Holiday Inn on the east side. He says he's glad I'm with you and that we'll figure everything out tomorrow. She looked up at me. Grandma, is Dad going to divorce Mom? I don't know, sweetheart. That's between them. But your father is a good man, and he deserves honesty and respect. Your mother hasn't given him either. I feel like I broke up their marriage. You didn't. Your mother's choices did that. You just brought the truth to light. If Marcus decides to end the marriage, it will be because your mother betrayed his trust, not because you exposed it. We talked until dawn began to lighten the eastern sky. I told her stories about her grandfather, about the life Gerald and I had built together. I told her about the struggles we had faced, the times we had wanted to give up, but chose to keep going. I wanted her to understand that life was full of hard moments, of betrayals and disappointments, but that resilience was possible, that love could endure even when it seemed broken beyond repair. As the sun rose, painting the kitchen in shades of pink and gold, Elawan asked, "Do you think Mom will ever apologize? Will she ever admit what she did was wrong?" I honestly don't know. Some people are capable of that kind of self-reflection, and some aren't. Your mother has spent so many years building justifications for her behavior, convincing herself that the ends justify the means, that I'm not sure she can see past her own rationalizations anymore. But you'll give her a chance. I'll leave the door open, but I won't be walked on again, Elawan. There's a difference between forgiveness and being a doormat. I can forgive your mother for what she tried to do, but I can't trust her again unless she does serious work to change. And that change has to come from her. Not because she wants access to my money or my house, but because she genuinely understands how wrong she was. Chapter 9. Building Defenses. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzly. Typical Portland November weather. Elawan had school, but I convinced her to go to her morning classes and check on her father and brothers. I needed to handle the legal matters alone, as much for my own sense of agency as for practicality. I started by calling my doctor, Dr. Patricia Yoon, whom I had been seeing for 15 years. I explained what had happened and asked if she would be willing to provide a written statement confirming my mental competency. The anger in her voice when I told her about Nadine's plans was validating. "Estelle, you're one of the sharpest 72-year-olds I know," she said firmly. "You manage multiple medications without confusion. You remember our conversations from visit to visit, and you've never shown any signs of cognitive decline beyond completely normal age-related changes. I'll have a letter ready for you by end of day, and if anyone questions your competency, they'll have to go through me first." Next, I contacted the Oregon State Bar Association and got referrals for elder law attorneys. I made an appointment with someone named Miriam Chen for that afternoon. Her receptionist noted the urgency in my voice and squeezed me in between other clients. As I prepared to leave for the appointment, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "Estelle, I hope I'm not bothering you. I wanted to check in, see how you're doing." "I'm all right, Marcus. More importantly, how are you and the boys?" "We're managing. Ellison and Emmerich are at school. I called in sick to work. I can't face going in and pretending everything is normal when my whole world just fell apart." His voice cracked slightly. "I've been married to Nadine for 22 years. How did I not see what she was capable of? Because you're a good person who assumes the best of people you love. That's not a character flaw, Marcus. Maybe not, but it makes me a fool." He paused, I've contacted a divorce attorney. I'm meeting with him this afternoon. I can't stay in this marriage, even if there was no affair. What she tried to do to you, her own mother, I can't reconcile that with the person I thought I married. I understand. You need to do what's right for you and the boys. The thing is, Nadine keeps calling me. She's left about 30 voicemails since yesterday, and they've gotten increasingly erratic. At first she was angry, blaming you and Alawan for poisoning me against her. Then she started crying, begging me to come back, saying she made mistakes but we could work through them. This morning's messages were different, though. She's talking about lawyers, about suing for custody of the kids, about proving that Alawan is an unfit minor who should be removed from your care. Estelle, I think she's losing it. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean, removed from my care? Alawan is 16, and she chose to stay with me for one night. I know, but Nadine is spinning this whole narrative about how you've manipulated Alawan against her, how you're the real villain in this situation. She's talking about getting restraining orders, about having you investigated for elder abuse, claiming that your attempt to isolate her from the family is a sign of mental illness. He sounded exhausted, and it's like she's rewriting history in real time, casting herself as the victim. Marcus, I'm meeting with an attorney this afternoon. I'm going to make sure all my legal affairs are in order and that Nadine can't make any claims on my assets or my autonomy. You should do the same. Protect yourself and the children. I will. And Estelle, thank you for being understanding about all this. I know Nadine is your daughter, and this must be incredibly painful for you. She's my daughter, but that doesn't excuse what she's done. You and the boys are family too. We'll get through this together. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the driveway for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel. The image of Nadine spiraling into victim narratives was disturbing, but not entirely surprising. She had always been good at reframing situations to make herself look better, at finding ways to blame others for her own choices. But this felt more extreme, more desperate. What would she do next? Chapter 10. Legal Armor. Miriam Chen's office was in a renovated house in the Hawthorne district, all exposed brick and modern furniture. She herself was probably in her mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp, intelligent eyes behind stylish glasses. I liked her immediately. I spent 2 hours telling her everything. She took notes, asked pointed questions, and didn't waste time with meaningless sympathy. When I finished, she sat back and assessed me with a level gaze. Mrs. Harrington, I'm going to be blunt with you. What your daughter attempted to do is legally and ethically problematic on multiple levels. If she had succeeded in getting you to sign those power of attorney documents under false pretenses, with a notary who was potentially complicit in fraud, she could face criminal charges. As it stands, you're in a strong position, but we need to act quickly to protect you. What do I need to do? First, we're going to draft a comprehensive set of legal documents. A durable power of attorney naming someone you trust, not your daughter, who can make financial decisions if you become incapacitated. A healthcare directive with a different agent for medical decisions. An updated will that clearly expresses your wishes. I also recommend a revocable living trust to hold your assets, which provides additional protection against elder abuse claims and makes it much harder for anyone to challenge your competency. How long will this take? I can have basic documents ready for you to review by tomorrow. The trust will take a bit longer, maybe a week. But the immediate priority is getting those power of attorney and healthcare directive documents signed and properly witnessed, so there's no question about your wishes. Marcus, my son-in-law, mentioned that Nadine is talking about filing claims of elder abuse against me. Can she do that? Miriam's expression hardened. She can try. Oregon takes elder abuse very seriously, and there are systems in place to investigate such claims. However, based on everything you've told me and the evidence you have of her own plotting, any investigation would likely conclude that her claims are retaliatory and false. That said, I'd recommend you document everything. Keep a journal of all interactions with her. Save any text messages, voicemails, or emails. If she shows up at your house, don't let her in, and if she refuses to leave, call the police. The thought of calling the police on my own daughter made my stomach clench, but I nodded. What about Alawan? Can Nadine really claim I'm an unfit guardian just because her daughter stayed with me for a night? Not successfully, no. Alawan is 16. old enough to make reasonable choices about where she stays, especially in a family situation. Unless you're engaging in actual abuse or neglect, which clearly you're not, there's no basis for those claims. Again, it's retaliatory behavior. Nadine is lashing out because she didn't get what she wanted. Miriam leaned forward. But I need to ask you something difficult. What do you want the end result to be here? Do you want to pursue legal action against your daughter for attempted fraud and elder abuse? Because you would have grounds. I hadn't considered that possibility. Pressing charges against Nadine felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I don't want her in prison. I just want to be safe from her. I want my autonomy protected. That's understandable, and we can achieve that without criminal prosecution. But I want you to keep the option in your back pocket. Sometimes the threat of legal consequences is what it takes to make someone back down. Your daughter seems to be someone who responds to power and consequences rather than moral arguments. We spent the rest of the session going over the details of what documents I would need. Miriam asked who I wanted to name as my financial and healthcare agents, and I chose Dorothy, my sister, for financial matters and Dr. Yoon for healthcare decisions. Both were people I trusted completely and who were in no way connected to Nadine. As I was leaving, Miriam touched my arm gently. Estelle, I've handled a lot of elder law cases over the years. Family betrayal is unfortunately common, though rarely as calculated as what your daughter attempted. I want you to know that protecting yourself doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you a wise woman who understands that love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. Chapter 11. Confrontation and Consequences. 3 days after my birthday party, Nadine showed up at my house. I saw her car pull into the driveway through the living room window and felt my heart rate spike. I had been expecting this, had been preparing for it mentally, but the reality of facing her still sent adrenaline coursing through my system. I had my phone in my hand, ready to call 911 if necessary. As I watched her walk up to the front door, she looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was unkempt, her clothes rumpled, and even from a distance I could see she'd been crying. When she knocked, I stood on the other side of the door without opening it. "Mom, I know you're in there. Please, we need to talk. We can talk through the door," I said. "Are you serious? You won't even let me into your house." My attorney advised me to document all our interactions and to not allow you on my property without witnesses present. I'm following her advice. There was a long silence. "You got an attorney? Mom, why are you doing this? I'm your daughter. You tried to have me declared incompetent and steal my home. Why wouldn't I get an attorney?" "I wasn't trying to steal anything. I was trying to help you. You're old, Mom. You need someone to look after you. What happens when you fall down these stairs? What happens when you forget to turn off the stove? I was thinking about your safety. Nadine, I have video recordings of you telling your boyfriend that you were waiting for me to die so you could inherit this house. I have evidence of you plotting to put me in a facility. I know about the real estate agent. Please don't insult my intelligence by pretending this was about my well-being." Another silence. Longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, become harder. "Owen showed you those videos. She had no right. That was private conversation. She had every right to protect me from you. She turned my own family against me. Marcus won't talk to me. The boys won't answer my calls. And it's all because of you and Owen. You've poisoned them." "No, Nadine. Your choices did that. Your lies, your affair, your schemes. Nobody turned anyone against you. You did that yourself. I never wanted it to be like this." Her voice cracked, and I heard genuine emotion for the first time. "I love you, Mom. I do. But when Dad died and left you all that money, and then you spent it on this ridiculous house instead of saving it for your family, for your grandchildren's education, it felt like such a betrayal. We needed that money. The kids have college coming up. Marcus's store is barely breaking even, and you just threw it away on your fantasy." There it was, the real heart of her anger. Not concern for my safety, but resentment that I had spent my own money on myself instead of giving it to her. "That money was mine, Nadine. Gerald left it to me, not to you. I chose to honor our shared dream. That's not a betrayal. That's me living my life. You're 72 years old. How much life do you have left? This house is going to sit empty in a few years anyway. Why not let me sell it now, while you can still enjoy your remaining time in a nice facility with people your own age?" I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of her words. This was who my daughter had become. Someone who measured my worth by how much longer I would live, who saw my dreams as wasteful because they didn't benefit her. Nadine, I want you to leave. If you don't, I'm calling the police. You would really call the police on your own daughter. Yes, I would. Because right now, you're not acting like my daughter. You're acting like someone who sees me as an obstacle to be removed. I heard her make a sound. Something between a sob and a laugh. Fine. Call the police. Call your lawyer. Turn everyone against me. But you'll see, Mom. You'll see that I was right. You can't maintain this place alone. The property taxes alone will eat up your savings in a few years. The roof needs work. The plumbing is old. This house is going to become a burden you can't escape. And when it does, don't come crying to me for help. I won't, I said quietly. Goodbye, Nadine. I heard her footsteps on the porch, then her car door slam. The engine started, and she drove away. I slid down to the floor, my back against the door, and finally let myself cry. Not for what had happened, but for what had been lost. The relationship I thought I had with my daughter had never existed. Or if it had, it was gone now. I grieved for the illusion, for the mother-daughter bond I had cherished that turned out to be built on sand. Chapter 12. Rebuilding and Reconciliation. 6 months passed. Winter gave way to spring, and the gardens around my Victorian house burst into bloom. I hired a local teenager to help with the yard work and made friends with my neighbors. I joined a community theater group and auditioned for a small role in their production of Our Town. I continued my book club, hosted dinner parties, and filled the house with life and laughter. Marcus and Nadine's divorce was finalized in March. He got primary custody of the boys, with Nadine having supervised visitation rights until she completed court-ordered therapy. The affair with Richard had apparently ended badly, with Nadine discovering he was married with children of his own. She had moved into a small apartment and was working part-time, claiming she couldn't handle the stress of her sales job anymore. I heard these updates from Marcus and the children, who visited regularly. Alawan came every Sunday for dinner, and we had established a ritual of cooking together and talking about her week. She had been accepted to Oregon State with a scholarship and was planning to major in environmental science. Ellison was teaching guitar lessons and saving money for music school. Emmerich, the youngest, was joining his school's debate team and discovering a passion for social justice. In May, I received a letter from Nadine. It came in a plain white envelope, my name and address written in her familiar handwriting. I held it for a long time before opening it, afraid of what I might find inside, but when I finally read it, I found something unexpected. Dear Mom, it began. I've spent the last 6 months in therapy, and my counselor suggested I write you this letter. She says I need to take accountability for my actions without expecting anything in return, so that's what I'm trying to do. I was wrong, not just about the power of attorney scheme or the affair or the lies to Marcus. I was wrong about everything. Wrong about how I saw you. Wrong about what I believed I was owed. Wrong about what really matters in life. Losing my marriage and damaging my relationship with my children has been devastating, but it's also been clarifying. For the first time in years, maybe in my whole life, I'm having to look at myself honestly, and I don't like what I see. I've been selfish, manipulative, and cruel, especially to you. You deserved so much better from me. I understand if you can't forgive me. I understand if you never want to see me again. I'm not writing this to ask for reconciliation or to be invited back into your life. I'm writing this because you deserve to know that I finally see the harm I caused, and I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. I'm working on becoming a better person, not for anyone else, but because I have to live with myself, and I can't stand who I've been. It's slow work. There are days I want to blame everyone else, to convince myself I was justified in my actions, but I'm trying to push past that, to take responsibility. I hope you're doing well. I hope the house brings you joy. I hope you're living the life you and Dad dreamed about. You earned it. I'm sorry I tried to take that from you. With love and regret. Nadine. I read the letter 3 times, looking for manipulation, for hidden agendas, but all I found was what appeared to be genuine remorse. It didn't undo what she had done. It didn't erase the hurt or restore the trust, but it was a start. A week later, I called her. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, her voice tentative and uncertain. Hello? Nadine, it's Mom. Silence. Then, hi, Mom. I got your letter. Oh, I wasn't sure you would read it. I read it. Several times, actually. I took a breath. I accept your apology. That doesn't mean everything is fixed between us, but I accept that you're trying to change. She started crying. Through the tears. She said, "Thank you. I don't deserve that, but thank you. You're right. You don't deserve it. But I'm not doing this for you, Nadine. I'm doing it for me. I don't want to spend whatever years I have left carrying anger and bitterness. That doesn't mean I'm going to forget what happened or pretend we can go back to how things were. We can't. Too much has been broken. I know. But I'm willing to see if we can build something new. Something honest this time. It will take time, and it will require you to continue the work you're doing in therapy. No backsliding. No reversion to old patterns. Can you commit to that? I can try. That's all I can promise. That I'll keep trying." Over the following months, Nadine and I began to rebuild a relationship. It was slow, awkward, and sometimes painful. We met for coffee once a month, always in public places, always with clear boundaries. She attended family gatherings at my house, but only when Marcus and the children were there too, providing a buffer and witnesses to our interactions. She told me about her therapy sessions, about the patterns she was uncovering from her childhood, and the ways she had learned to manipulate to get what she wanted. Some of it was hard to hear, forcing me to confront my own failures as a parent, the ways my absences and struggles had affected her development. But I listened, and I tried to understand without excusing her behavior. The relationship we were building wasn't the one I had lost. It wasn't warm or easy, or filled with the kind of trust a mother and daughter should share. But it was real. It was honest. And in some ways, that made it more valuable than what we had before, which had been built on illusions and unspoken resentments. On my 73rd birthday, a year after the party that had changed everything, I hosted another gathering. It was smaller this time, more intimate. Marcus and the children came, of course, Dorothy and her family, a few close friends, and after much discussion with everyone involved, Nadine was invited too. She arrived late, nervous, carrying a gift wrapped in simple brown paper. When she handed it to me, her hands shook. Inside was a photo album. She had compiled pictures from throughout her childhood, images of Gerald and me, of our family in happier times. On the first page, she had written, "For the mother I didn't appreciate when I should have, and the grandmother my children are lucky to have. Thank you for giving me another chance." I hugged her then, really hugged her, for the first time in over a year. She felt thin in my arms, fragile in a way she had never been before, but she hugged me back, and I felt her tears on my shoulder. "I love you, Mom," she whispered. "I love you too," I replied, and I meant it, even though the love was different now, tempered by reality and loss. As the party continued around us, I looked at the faces of my family, at Marcus, good and steady, building a new life for himself and the boys, at Ellison, Emmerich, and especially Elowen, these remarkable young people who were growing into adults of character and courage, at Nadine, damaged but trying, taking small steps toward becoming someone worthy of their love. This wasn't the happy ending I had imagined a year ago. There were still wounds that might never fully heal, still caution where there should be ease, but it was real, and it was honest, and it was enough. Later that evening, as guests were leaving, Elowen pulled me aside. "Are you okay, Grandma? I mean, really okay." I looked at this beautiful, brave granddaughter who had saved me when I needed it most. "I am, sweetheart. Not perfectly happy, not without grief for what was lost, but okay. That's enough for now. I'm proud of you," she said, "for being strong enough to set boundaries, but generous enough to allow reconciliation. That takes courage. I learned it from you," I replied, and watched her smile. As I stood on my porch that night, watching the last guests depart, I reflected on the year that had passed. I had learned hard lessons about trust, about the ways people we love can hurt us, about the difference between forgiveness and foolishness. I had learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish, that demanding honesty isn't cruel, and that real love requires truth, not just sentiment. The house stood solid around me, Gerald's and my dream made real. It was mine, truly mine, and no one could take it from me now. But more than that, I had claimed my own life, my own choices, my own story. At 73, I was not diminished or irrelevant or merely waiting for the end. I was living, truly living, with all the complexity and pain and joy that entailed. The future was uncertain. Nadine might continue to change, or she might revert to old patterns. Marcus might remarry, might move on completely, or might always carry the scars of his first marriage's betrayal. The children would grow, make their own choices, perhaps repeat some of our mistakes or forge entirely new paths. I couldn't control any of it, but I could control my own response. I could choose resilience over bitterness, wisdom over naivety, boundaries over blind trust. I could keep living with intention, honoring my dreams, protecting my autonomy, while still leaving room for love and second chances. As I locked the door and turned off the porch light, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not happiness exactly, but something deeper and more enduring. The acceptance that life is complicated, that people we love can hurt us, that family bonds can break and be partially mended but never be quite the same, and the knowledge that even in the midst of all that messiness and pain, there is still beauty, still purpose, still life worth living. My 73rd year stretched ahead of me, full of possibility. I had a house to maintain, a garden to tend, a play to rehearse for, grandchildren to watch grow, and maybe, just maybe, a daughter to help heal. It wasn't the story I had expected to be living, but it was mine, and I would write the rest of it on my own terms. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. The end.